Good day, everyone. We are Group 11. I'm Ethan, and this is Grizel. Today, we are presenting a comparative analysis of the political systems of the United States and South Korea. This presentation aims to examine the structure, functions, and key factors of each system, as well as highlight their ability to influence multinational enterprises. By exploring these two democratic nations, we hope to provide a clearer understanding of how political systems can influence strategies of multinational enterprises expanding into these markets. Here is an overview of our presentation.
So, why does comparing political systems matter? This topic matters in the global business landscape because political systems affect how multinational enterprises expand and operate in different countries. The United States and South Korea have different political structures, regulations, and policy priorities which create different business environments. Government decisions on trade, tariffs, and foreign investment can directly influence market entry strategies and global supply chains. Political changes can also create risk and opportunities for firms. Therefore, understanding political systems helps multinational enterprises assess risk, adapt their strategies, and make better investment decisions in an increasingly complex and interconnected global market. Moving on to a brief introduction of South Korea's political system. South Korea operates under a democratic presidential system where the president is elected by popular vote and serves a single 5-year term with no re-election. The country is also based on the principles of liberal democracy, which emphasize the rule of law, protection of rights, and equal opportunities. This political structure, together with strong government-business relationships, plays an important role in shaping the country's economic environment. As a result, it directly influences how multinational enterprises enter and expand in the market, as firms must adapt to government policies, regulations, and the overall political landscape when making investment decisions.
Adding on to that, the United States political system is a constitutional political federal republic with a presidential system of government in which powers are divided between the federal governments and 50 state governments, each operating under its own constitution. At the federal level, the government is divided into three branches: legislative branch, executive branch, and judicial branch. These political structures creates a stable and transparent environment for businesses. Its strong legal institutions ensure consistent enforcement of laws, particularly in protecting property rights, which gives companies confidence to invest and operate securely. In addition, the regulatory system is generally predictable and clearly defined, allowing businesses to plan long-term strategies with less uncertainty, although regulations vary across different levels of government. They remain accessible and transparent. This stability reduces the risk of sudden policy changes. Next, this slide highlights the factors that influence how multinational enterprises enter the US market. First, the United States offers strong legal protections, especially in areas like intellectual property. This ensures the companies can protect their innovations, brands, and technologies, making market entry less risky. Second, the US policies generally favors a market-driven approach. This means fewer direct government interventions, allowing businesses to compete freely and make decisions based on market conditions. Third, regulations are relatively transparent and accessible. MNEs can clearly understand the rules and requirements, which helps them plan their entry strategies more effectively. Finally, the decentralized political system means that all 50 states operate somewhat like separate markets. This allows companies to choose entry points based on favorable state laws, taxes, and business environments. Together, this makes the US an attractive but strategically complex market for multinational enterprises. This can be seen from the high peaks from the foreign direct investment graph by the trading economics. For the key insights, the multinational enterprises that will focus on will be Tesla. Using the Porter's 5 forces framework, the most relevant to the topic are the following. For the threat of new entrants, Tesla maintains a significantly position in EV industry through US intellectual property protections because the US has a robust legal framework for patents that a proprietary tech and Tesla can aggressively safeguard its software and battery innovations. This makes it much harder for a new player to simply replicate Tesla's products without facing massive legal issues. As for the bargaining power of the supplier, Tesla benefits from a unique domestic landscape where different US states provide significant incentives. By offering tax breaks and subsidies for local component production, these states help Tesla diversify its supply chain. For the rivalry among existing competitors, Tesla can scale its infrastructure much faster and with more confidence than competitors who may be bogged down by regulatory uncertainty for weaker patent security. For the three forces, we can see three clear strategic implications. Firstly, Tesla should continue to prioritize investments in specific states that offer the most favorable regulatory and tax environments. Secondly, Tesla should continue to build its own factories. This approach ensures that their production capacity matches their rapid innovation cycle. Finally, because the US environment is so stable, there is no need to rely heavily on local partners, unlike in some international markets where partnerships are a legal requirement.
Another key factor would be government-business relationships in South Korea. South Korea operates under a democratic presidential system, but at the same time, the government plays a strong role in economic development. Historically, the state has actively supported large domestic firms to drive national growth and industrialization. As shown in the pie chart from the article The SK Group Scandal and Systemic Corporate Crime, major companies known as chaebols like Samsung Group, Hyundai Motor Group, and SK Group are heavily involved in key industries such as technology, automotive, and energy. These firms have become highly dominant in the domestic market. Because of this dominance, foreign companies often face high barriers to entry when entering the South Korean market. Established firms, particularly chaebols, already have strong brand recognition, extensive resources, and long-standing relationships with the government and suppliers. In addition, these firms benefit from well-developed distribution networks and economies of scale, making it difficult for new entrants to compete on price and market share. As a result, the market becomes highly competitive with foreign firms facing both structural and strategic challenges. This means that multinational enterprises cannot rely on standard entry strategies and must instead adapt by forming partnerships, targeting niche segments, or differentiating their products to compete effectively. Therefore, multinational enterprises must carefully adapt their strategies when entering South Korea, rather than competing directly with these powerful domestic players. For the key insights, we use the Ollie paradigm to analyze. Firstly, in terms of location advantage, South Korea is a high-income industrialized economy with strong innovation hubs and skilled labor, which makes it attractive for multinational enterprises. The country is also a global leader in advanced technologies such as semiconductors, batteries, and digital infrastructure, which creates a supportive ecosystem for high-tech industries. This makes South Korea particularly attractive for multinational enterprises like Tesla. For example, Tesla benefits from the country's strong technological capabilities and demand for electric vehicles, as well as access to advanced components such as batteries from companies like LG Energy Solution. In addition, South Korea's affluent consumers and tech-savvy population create a strong market for premium and innovative products. However, there are also constraints when it comes to location. The market is dominated by large conglomerates or chaebols such as Hyundai, which creates high barriers to entry and intense competition. In terms of internalization advantage, Tesla maintains control over its operations, production, and distribution models. In South Korea, Tesla does not rely on third-party dealerships but instead operates its own showrooms and direct-to-consumer sales models. This allows the company to protect its technology and maintain consistency in its global strategy while also maintaining full control over the customer experience, pricing, and brand positioning, which is especially important in a highly competitive and technologically advanced market like South Korea. By internalizing its distribution, Tesla can also respond more quickly to market changes and consumer preferences. In addition, keeping its proprietary technology and avoid potential risk of imitation by strong local competitors. It also ensures consistency with its global strategy, allowing the company to deliver the same standards of quality and innovation across different markets. As for ownership advantage, it is less relevant to this analysis because it is not directly influenced by the political system of a country. Instead, location and internalization advantages are more directly shaped by political and regulatory environments, making them more relevant to this topic. Moving on to the implications, Tesla adopts a selective market entry strategy, focusing on niche or premium segments rather than competing directly with local firms. It also engages in less local production, relying more on imports instead of establishing large-scale manufacturing. Finally, Tesla must continuously adapt its strategy to respond to strong competition and the local market environment. Overall, this shows how both location and internalization advantages shape the strategies of multinational enterprises in South Korea. To conclude, the different political systems of the USA and South Korea affects how MNEs strategize and expand in these markets. The USA's political system is federal and transparent, which allows greater autonomy and decentralized policy changes for MNEs. As for South Korea, they have a political system that is centralized and democratic. They have a strong government business relationship which encourages MNEs to focus on building partnerships, aligning with regulations, and navigate carefully in local company networks. Therefore, by analyzing the different political systems of each country, MNEs can reduce potential risks and achieve sustainable strategies. Thank you for your time and attention.